Administrator with the National Community Action Partnership. I will be running the behind-the-scenes technology for this session. Today's presentation will be led by Leah Pauletti, the Project Director, Credentialing and Assessment with the National Community Action Partnership. This webinar will be recorded and will be made available to you on the National Community Action Partnership's website under the resource page within the next 2 days. Please note that you will be muted for this presentation, but you should be able to hear us out of your computer speakers. If you lose audio at any time during the presentation, please click Switch to Phone Audio on the bottom left-hand corner next to the microphone icon where it says Mute. You can also call into the session using the teleconference number located at the bottom of your confirmation email. You can send any technical questions you may have to me directly in the chat box, and please feel free to send any content-related questions that you may have for our presenter in through the chat box throughout the duration of this presentation. If your question in the chat box is not answered during the session, then we will try to answer through follow-up emails. If you get disconnected and need to contact me, I can be reached at mhubbard@communityactionpartnership.com. As we do with all the CCAP meetings and presentations, we will get started with the recitation of the promise of community action. We do this to help keep us grounded in the work that we do. Please join me as we recite the community action promise. Community action changes people's lives, embodies the spirit of hope, improves communities, and makes America a better place to live. We care about the entire community, and we are dedicated to helping people help themselves and each other. Now, I will turn the presentation over to Leah to get us started.
Thanks, Mitzi. Good afternoon, everybody. Good morning to some. We're having some technical difficulties on the back end here, getting folks into the meeting. We apologize for that. Not sure what's happening. But just know that if your team member did not get into the meeting today, we are recording this, so we will send out the link to the recording after the webinar within the next couple days by next week. So on your screen is the agenda for today's session. We will talk about what is CCAP. We're going to talk about the purpose of CCAP, the value of CCAP, and the impact of becoming a CCAP. Next, we're going to break down the process of CCAP, which includes enrollment. Then we'll discuss the learning opportunities available to help support you to succeed in becoming a CCAP. And then we're going to touch briefly on renewing your certification once you do earn it. And then lastly, I hope to have some time to answer your questions, but please feel free to ask questions as we go in the chat box. The goal at the end of this presentation is that you feel comfortable knowing what is expected of you throughout the process, and hopefully you'll be ready to enroll as a CCAP candidate. So let's start with what is CCAP. First, I want to start with what is intended with professional certification. So on the screen, you can see that there are a few definitions of certification. It's an attestation of an individual's level of knowledge and proficiency in a certain industry or profession. Certification is a recognition of the knowledge, skills, and competencies that professionals have already accumulated. And then lastly, certification is the process by which a person proves that they have knowledge, experience, and skills to perform a specific job. So 3 separate definitions, but you can see that there are similarities amongst them. So what you don't see in any of these definitions is this: training. You don't see certification designed or defined as a training program. So why is that? And I'll tell you that it's because professional certification, it's a test of what you already know and can do. So the Certified Community Action Professional, or CCAP, it's an evaluation program, a testing and assessment program. The CCAP program itself does not offer or provide you with training to help you learn more or do your job better. But quite frequently, people say they want to get involved in the CCAP program because they want to learn more about community action. And people who have gone through the process and attained the CCAP credential, they say it was one of the best professional development experiences of their entire career. So that's an interesting contradiction. How can it be if it's not designed as a training program? And yet people tell us that this is what they seek out of it, and that's what they get out of it. So if it isn't a training program, what is it? And I think the answer is simple, really. The answer is that for most people, the actual testing is just the final stop in reaching a targeted destination. So the journey of learning and work experiences, that journey that culminates in the exam, is something that each candidate will build for themselves. And I'll be the first one to tell you that the certification process is actually pretty simple. You enroll, you pass an online exam, you pass a written exam, and boom, you're certified. Your experience becoming a CCAP is your journey, and it is and will be what you make of it. So the CCAP program has been around since 1993. And through the years, there have been many changes and updates to the program. But what has always remained unchanged is that it recognizes individuals who have demonstrated knowledge and application of the core competencies required to effectively carry out the vision, mission, purpose, and values of the community action movement. The CCAP program positions the Community Action Network to serve the best interests of people living with low income or experiencing poverty. So, earning the designation of Certified Community Action Professional is both challenging and rewarding. Becoming a CCAP distinguishes you as a qualified, capable leader, while at the same time, it lends increased credibility to the efforts of our entire community action movement. So the cool thing about CCAP is it's all peer-based. What that means is it's designed, it's evaluated, and it's managed by CCAPs who know and understand those distinct nuances of community action, rather than individuals from outside of the network running the CCAP program. So CCAP is based on two pillars. The first pillar is the community action body of knowledge. And the second pillar is the community action code of ethics. Hopefully you've heard about both of these, but if you haven't, we're going to dive into what each of those are. So the first pillar is the community action body of knowledge. We abbreviate that to say BOK. So the body of knowledge defines the core knowledge and competencies that professionals working in community action are expected to understand and apply. So it serves as the foundation for certification and professional development. It ensures consistency, credibility, and effectiveness across the field. The certification process, it evaluates a candidate's knowledge and ability to apply that knowledge across 5 key categories. And those are the different sections of the body of knowledge that you see on the screen. So section A is the history of community action movement. Section B, the vision and values of the community action movement. Section C are the traditional management skills. Section D is leadership and community action. And the last section is section E, which is theories of poverty, the causes of poverty and the strategies to address those causes. So the first thing that you're going to want to make sure you do is, even now, you can go and read the body of knowledge. Everything that you will be tested on is going to be related to some part of the body of knowledge. So I just want to throw this out there with full transparency, is that currently the CCAP Commission is updating the body of knowledge, so it's not available yet for the upcoming year, but it will be, and we will get it to you as soon as the commission has approved it. And that should be by October. So the body of knowledge, again, is an outline of all those things that a CCAP is expected to know. So the second pillar of CCAP are the Community Action Code of Ethics. So the Code of Ethics defines the principles, values, and standards of behavior expected of individuals within community action. Think of the Code of Ethics serving as a guide to help you make those ethical decisions and act with integrity in your role. So when you enroll in the CCAP program, you're going to sign off on each of these codes, saying that you understand them and that you will abide by them. So again, another thing to note is that in 2023, NCAP's Board of Directors, along with the CCAP Commission, updated the Code of Ethics. So you'll want to make sure that if you are reading a Code of Ethics, that you are reading the most recent copy. On your screen right now is the most recent copy. So the 6th Code of Ethics, prior to the update, there were 12 Code of Ethics, and the commission and the board condensed them down into 6. So remain focused on the mission. Be outspoken advocates and educators, inspire confidence and trust in the community action movement, practice service above self, be leaders, support leaders, and create leaders, and strive for performance excellence. So one thing to note on the Code of Ethics is that they're not numbered. And we do that because no one ethic is more important than the other, so we don't put numbers on them. So next we're going to talk a little bit about the value of CCAP. So we live in a world where many people will ask, if they're asked to do something, what's in it for me? And we know that this applies in community action when someone's asked if they plan to go through the CCAP process. What do I get out of it? What's in it for me? Why would I go through all that work? So luckily, there's much value in earning your CCAP to you, to your agency, and to the community action movement. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. So many years ago, Region 7 did a study about the actual value that an individual receives with becoming a CCAP. And this is what they learned. So you earn your CCAP when you can show mastery of the 5 sections of the body of knowledge. We've already talked about those sections. So Region 7 asked the question, what is the value of such mastery? And the study demonstrated this. Personal horizons are broadened. So CCAPs now know not only their part in community action through their particular program, but they also understand how those programs and everything fits together within community action. So CCAPs can see a bigger picture that they maybe didn't see before, and that strengthens their personal commitment to the agency and community action. And another thing that it does is it also helps to break down those silos. Next, they found that personal orientation to community action is improved. So CCAPs are inspired and they're guided by community action's rich and powerful history. They embrace community action's vision and values and ethics. They're proficient in theory and practice of traditional management and leadership skills. And they're aware of the various theories of poverty to help eliminate poverty. So they learn a lot about community action just by virtue of studying for the exam. And then also, personal behavior is guided by that code of ethics. So CCAP know, and they're able to articulate that they work for an organization that has values and standards worth signing their name to. So CCAPs discuss and promote the code of ethics. And one thing we know that is if ethics are not discussed and promoted, they can be neither embraced nor practiced. So they really learn about the code of ethics, and it is a great thing that CCAPs know all about the code of ethics and that community action actually has a code of ethics. And then lastly, to the individual, personal affirmation is achieved. So CCAPs feel a sense of personal and professional accomplishment, self-fulfillment, self-confidence, and pride at just being included among those that have stepped forward to lead community action through this first half of the 21st century. And anyone that was at the annual convention last week can see the pride of the people when they walked across the stage to get that CCAP pin, that they feel that personal affirmation. So many CCAPs also reported, we didn't list it on here, but they also reported that they become more passionate and inspired and excited and motivated because of their experiences during the CCAP process. But what does the agency get out of having CCAPs on staff? So what the study found was this. Community action culture is preserved. So those CCAP-led agencies, they're not in social service agency mode. They remain in community action mode. CCAP-led agencies make anti-poverty, human development, and public charity distinctions. Next was community action depth of leadership is assured. So those CCAP-led agencies have a cohesive leadership core that's not centered on one individual. The leadership core is composed of a number of individuals who understand those community action concepts, management concepts, leadership concepts. Here is where community action succession is addressed. Next, they found that community action purpose is the unifying element. So consensus exists among staff in CCAP-led agencies that the purpose of community action is to eliminate poverty through both revitalization to communities and empowerment of individuals. And one thing I want to say is when we talk about CCAP-led agencies, I'm not saying just the executive director being a CCAP. We're talking more about the leadership team, which will include the executive director. So that when we mention CCAP-led agencies, that's what we're talking about. And then lastly, community action orientation is provided. So in those CCAP-led agencies, loyalty is to the agency and community action rather than to a program or a funding source. Oftentimes you will hear someone say, well, I work for Head Start. Well, you work for X community action agency in the program Head Start. Or you'll hear people say, well, I work for CSBG. Well, no, CSBG is a funding source that comes into community action. So those 8 specific values in sum enhance excellence, and they justify the commitment of agency resources to CCAP as community action's premier professional development tool. So that CCAP pin that they receive at the gala is a symbol of community action knowledge, proficiency, understanding, and mastery. And that's value. So I am going to stop here just momentarily and see if there are any questions that anyone has as of yet. Feel free to unmute yourself. That's probably easiest. Okay, no questions. We'll keep going. But feel free to jump in if you do have questions. Chances are we will get to them through at some point during the presentation. Okay, so the next item on our agenda is to talk about the process of CCAP from enrollment to certification. So a few of the tasks that you could do now as you're thinking about becoming CCAP candidates are talk to CCAPs. So talking to those that have been where you are today will give you fresh insight. You can find out how the process was for them and what they can offer regarding the process. One thing I want to note is the asterisk that's after CCAPs. The program has had many updates over the last couple of years. So if you are talking with CCAPs about program requirements, make sure they received their CCAP last year or this year, as the requirements have changed. When in doubt, go to NCAP's website, and the answers about requirements are all there in the CCAP candidacy guide. That's posted on the website now, so you can go take a look at that. So all this to say, if you talk to your boss or coworker about their CCAP journey, it may have looked very different 5 years ago than it does today. Next, you want to build your support team. Knowing who shares your enthusiasm will help you stay committed. You'll also want to know who's in your corner to offer you support. Also, do you know who on your team will support you? So for instance, will you be allowed to study on work time? Will your agency support and pay for you to attend the annual convention to receive your CCAP once you earn it? So these are some of the questions that you'll want to ask now. And I think it's also important to know who's not in your corner. Because let's be honest, not everybody loves CCAP like we do. And we want to know who would be distracting us from achieving our CCAP. We already talked about it, but read the body of knowledge. Thoughtful consideration will help you identify where you need to hone your skills. If you read that body of knowledge and you go, I don't really know about history, so I think that's a place where I really need to have more information. Next, craft your learning plan. So planning for and getting the knowledge and experience needed will help you become a CCAP. How are you going to carve out time to study? Will you join a study group? If your agency has multiple candidates, think about having a study group within your organization or join one. We will have study groups listed on NCAP's website. Some are free to join. Others do have a cost associated with them, but you can reach out to the study group leaders and they can let you know. And lastly, define and commit to a time frame. So thinking about the steps and time frame will allow you to set a pace that's right for you. So you have 3 years to complete the CCAP process once you're enrolled. Maybe you don't want to do it all in 1 year, but you want to space it over time. That's okay. Just make sure you have a time frame. And then the last step is to enroll as a candidate. Take that first step and begin your journey. And we are going to talk about how to do that and what that looks like. So enrollment is very easy. All you have to do is head to NCAP's member portal. Hopefully this screen looks a little familiar to you. You can see where you need to go on the screen. What you're going to want to make sure you do is the first thing you do when you go to the member portal is log into the system. Once there, you will click on the CCAP credential up on top, and then another menu is going to pop up, and you will click on Apply for Certification. So please note that if you have started an application either this year or last year, and you know that you've started an application, you've received emails from myself or Mitzi saying you're in some sort of the process, you will want to click on Return to Draft Application, because then you can pick up where you left off. You are not going to want to start another application. So the great thing about the CCAP enrollment process is that it is streamlined online. So it's going to walk you through each one of the steps. You'll be able to see on the left-hand side of the screen your progress as you go through the application. And as you've completed a task, a green check mark will show up next to the completed task. So we're going to start out with the instruction page. Make sure you read through it. Once you have, you will continue with your application. So next, the application is going to ask you to update your contact information. It's important to add as much information as possible. So this helps to ensure that NCAP staff is able to communicate with all candidates. Also notice the green check mark next to instructions. You've completed that, so it is checked and you don't have to go back to that page because it's done. One thing I will say about this page also is include as much information as you're comfortable with. We do ask for a cell phone number. We do ask for a personal email address. If you're comfortable sharing those, please do. It just is another way for NCAP staff to be able to communicate with you. Next, we're going to choose the type of employer we have. So noting that if you are out of network, there are some other steps to complete, but we don't need to dive into those right now. You are going to say, I work for a private community action or a public, or I'm a delegate or subgrantee, or I work at a state association or state office. Once you click on that, you'll hit save and continue and go to the next page. So the next item to complete would be to enter 3 recommendations who will support your CCAP candidacy. So one recommendation must come from your CEO. If you're the CEO, you will need to have the name and email address of your board chair. So you'll also need to then have the name and email addresses of 2 other people that you can use as a recommendation. So somebody who feels that you would make a good CCAP candidate. It helps if they're already a CCAP, but that isn't necessary. So you'll just click on add recommendation and you'll enter their information. You need their phone number, their name, and their email address. So the great thing about this streamlined enrollment process is once you've entered those 3 recommendations, they'll automatically receive an email asking them to fill out a brief form recommending you as a CCAP candidate. So one thing of caution is you'll want to make sure that they know this is coming, because what has happened, we have found over the years, is that sometimes that email coming from us gets hung up in spam or junk mail. So if they know to look for it, they can be checking that spam or junk folder. Once all 3 recommendations have been entered into your application, you'll be able to save and continue your application and go to the next page. And you'll be able to see also the process for folks submitting those recommendations. So once it's sent, it will become a pending recommendation. And once it's completed and they have submitted it, it will say completed. So the last step to complete before your application is paid for and processed is reading and initialing each one of those code of ethics. So you do this to state that you understand each ethic and you will abide by them. We already talked about the code of ethics, so you can read through them, you hit I agree, and you initial them. Again, I want to point out that the green check mark showing up in the screen on the left, well, I guess in the middle of your screen, that shows that you've completed each one of those steps. If you are in network, you will not get a check for number 4 that says out of network only because you're in network and that doesn't apply. So the final step is to submit payment for your enrollment. The enrollment fee is $600 for NCAP members if your organization is a member of NCAP, and $635 for non-members. So please note that you can pay by credit card. You can have NCAP invoice you for payment by check, or you can pay with a discount code. So let's say your agency or your state association has purchased a group enrollment. NCAP will then give the discount code to whoever purchased the group enrollment, and then that agency will be responsible for distributing the code to eligible candidates. Group enrollments are essentially you buy 3 enrollments, you get the 4th one free. One thing I would encourage from all of you is to check with your state association to see if they're willing to purchase group enrollments for the entire state. That ends up making it less expensive for everyone. One thing I can tell you is when I was at the state association in Minnesota, we purchased group enrollments for everyone that was going through the process in Minnesota. And then what we would do is we would invoice the organizations based on how many people that agency enrolled. So if you have 4 people that enroll, you use a discount code rather than it being $600 per person, it really becomes $450 if you did that group enrollment. One thing I do want to caution you for is if you are unsure if your agency or your state association is going to purchase group enrollments, do not pay with a credit card here, because on the back end, it causes havoc with the system. So we want to make sure you can just save here and then contact your association to see if they have a group enrollment. We'd rather have you apply the discount code than pay for the enrollment with a credit card and then come back, have to cancel that, and then add a discount code. So once you have everything completed in your application and your recommendations have all come in and your enrollment is paid for, you are officially enrolled as a CCAP candidate. So I'm going to stop there for a second and see if you have any questions about online enrollment for CCAP. Okay, no questions. We'll keep going ahead.
I had a question.
Oh yes, go ahead.
How much is the member enrollment fee again?
The member enrollment fee is $600 and the non-member is $635.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So the enrollment period starts July 1st and it ends October 31st each year. So we like to say that enrollment goes from fireworks to pumpkins. So that means enrollment is currently open and you can enroll now. So one thing I will encourage you to do is to complete your enrollment earlier rather than later. So you don't want to wait until October 31st to start your enrollment, because let's say your executive director is on vacation and they don't get the email for your recommendation. If they turn that in after October 31st, it is late, and the CCAP Commission will not make any concessions for any late enrollments. So you're going to want to make sure that everything is completed by October 31st. That means your application, All recommendations have been submitted and payment has been submitted. That is when you've done all of that, and you've also signed off on the code of ethics. When you've done all of that, you will become a CCAP candidate. So next, when you enroll, your candidacy lasts 3 years. So if you choose to enroll now, or you've already enrolled for this year in 2025, your candidacy for CCAP will run from 2026 to 2028. That's 3 years. Once you're a CCAP candidate, you go right from enrollment with nothing else to complete or turn into NCAP to taking the exam. No additional points to gather, no documents to prepare and submit. You enroll. The next step is to take an exam. So we do, however, now have a 2-step exam process that you'll need to complete and pass both parts of in order to earn your CCAP. So the first one, or the second one, however you choose to do it, is the proctored online exam. And the other is the independent writing assignment. So both of these exams do require you to register for them through NCAP's member portal during a very specific time frame. So first, we're going to talk a little bit about what you can expect with the proctored exam. The proctored exam, it's administered on the 3rd Wednesday in April each year. You have a total of 4 hours to complete the examination, and it's broken into 2 sections with a small break in between them. So section 1 of the exam are all objective questions covering all sections of the body of knowledge. Then you get a short 15-minute break, and when you return, you'll start section 2, which are essay questions, including case study challenges that are based on a fictional community action agency called New Hope. So you'll want to make sure you read the New Hope case study prior to the exam, and it will be part of the exam study guide as an attachment. So you'll be given 5 essay questions, and you will need to complete 4 of them. Everyone will answer the same 2 questions, but then you get to choose which of the other 2 you will answer. And if you enroll in CCAP this year, I will do a webinar doing a deep dive into the proctored examination and also into the independent writing assignment. So I'm just kind of giving you the highlights here. So there is a study guide that will be created for the proctored exam, and it will be released by December, and it will be posted on NCAP's study guide. Again, you'll want to make sure you download it. Everything that you need to know to pass the proctored exam will be in that study guide. Again, you'll have to register to take the exam through NCAP's member portal, and this is a mandatory step. So what it does is it lets NCAP know who to send that study guide to, who to assign a proctor to, etc. So registration will open in March. And another thing that you'll want to know is be checking the e-news that we send out weekly on Thursdays, because that is how we communicate to the network. It will have all these dates and important milestone dates in there that you'll need to do something by. So watch the e-news. So registration for the proctored exam will open in March. It's open for about a month. And again, there will be no exceptions given if you do not register in time. So if you do not register by the due date, you cannot take the exam. Once you register, you'll be given access to participate in a practice exercise in our Community Action Academy, and that's where our online exam platform is, and you'll be assigned a proctor. The proctor is your go-to person for the exam. They'll do a brief training with you on how to access the exam, what to do on the day of the exam, etc. So they will also be with you during the proctored exam because they'll be proctoring and they'll be watching you take the exam. So with regards to that practice exercise, that consists of 10 questions. It's a practice exercise. It's not scored. The questions are not on the actual exam. We just ask you to do this so that you can become familiar with logging on to NCAP's Community Action Academy site. And then you're able to navigate Community Action Academy while being on a Zoom or team meeting with your proctor. We do this so there are no surprises on exam day. Exam day is stressful enough for you. We don't want something to glitch out because you haven't practiced it. So that's the only reason we do it. In the past, we've had people asking for scores for their practice exercise, and it is not an exam. It's just an exercise. So no scores, no nothing will be given about the practice exercise. So once you've completed the online proctored exam, it's scored by the CCAP Commission's exam evaluation team. Again, made up of all CCAPs and CCAP commissioners who have all been trained on how to evaluate those essays. Any questions about the proctored exam before we jump into the independent writing assignment? All right. We'll jump into the independent writing assignment. So the second exam process that you'll need to complete is the independent writing assignment. We call that the IWA. So just as you did with the proctored online exam, you'll need to register for the IWA through NCAP's member portal. Again, it helps us know who plans to submit an IWA so we can communicate specifically with that group. Again, there will be no exceptions given if you do not register during the time that registration is open. So the topic and the study guide are released. The IWA will identify a topic. So it will be a specific emerging approach or strategy to promoting social and economic mobility. And that topic changes each year. This past year, the commission chose the whole family approach. The year before, it was guaranteed basic income. So they're really looking at some strategy to eliminate poverty. So there will also be a study guide created for the IWA. It will be released in mid-May. It will be emailed to everyone that registered to complete the IWA. And you'll also receive topical resource material that will contain the minimum detail needed to prepare your response. So your IWA should be independently completed and submitted, meaning you complete the assignment and you submit it to NCAP for yourself. You'll also need to sign off on an attestation form and submit that to NCAP. And this is just stating and attesting that what you have submitted to NCAP is your own work. So in the instructions for the IWA, you'll be given 4 to 5 prompts for which you'll be asked to prepare written responses. All of the information that you need to prepare your IWA will be sent to you in the study guide and resource materials. So it's really important to read the information that we send out. Sections B, Community Action Vision and Values, and sections E, Theories of Poverty of the Body of Knowledge, is what are the 2 sections that are being tested for the independent writing assignment. So the IWA, it will showcase your ability to apply understanding and knowledge to real world settings and issues. You'll have about 15 days to write and submit your IWA. That begins in mid-May, and it will begin in mid-May, and you will need to submit it by the end of May. The exact dates are in the candidacy guide, which I said earlier is posted on NCAP's website. And we'll also talk a little bit about that momentarily. So any questions about the IWA? All right, we'll keep trucking along. So once you take both portions of the exam, did you have a question? Okay. So once you take both portions of the exam and you successfully pass them, you'll become a CCAP. So you'll find out if you become a CCAP by June 30th, and you'll be notified via email. So one of the great things about this two-part exam process is that you get to choose the order and the timing of when you complete each portion of the exam. So remember, I said that you have 3 years to complete the process once you enroll in CCAP. So you get to decide when you will complete each portion of the exam. So I'm going to take you through very quickly through 3 different scenarios so you can see how your 3-year candidacy might look. So this is Tim. Tim decided that he wants to be recognized in August 2026 in St. Louis, Missouri for passing both both exam processes. So he'll need to take and pass the proctored exam in April 2026 and complete and pass the IWA in May 2026. If he does so, he will earn his CCAP and be recognized in August in St. Louis at the annual convention. Next is Kim. So Kim is going to take another path toward her CCAP. She knows she has 3 years to complete the process, and Kim is really swamped at work through the end of April and doesn't think that she can possibly make studying for the proctored exam a priority this year. And that's okay. The month of May, she knows, is wide open for her. So she thinks that this year, 2026, she'll focus on completing the IWA, and then next year, in 2027, she'll take the proctored exam. And lastly, we have Jim. So Jim doesn't want to study for the proctored exam this year, but he will commit to submitting the IWA. Next year, his plan is to complete the proctored exam. So Jim turns in his IWA, but unfortunately, he didn't get a passing score this year. So he'll need to submit and pass his IWA again next year or the following year. So as you can see, Tim, Kim, and Jim, they have different paths. But again, because you have 3 years to complete the CCAP process from the time you enroll, all of those time frames work. You'll need to choose the time frame for taking each portion of the exam that works for you and your schedule. So once you've completed one part of the exam, you do not need to do that portion again. It is completed, it's done. So here's a note of unsolicited advice from a former study group leader. Even if you're unprepared to take the proctored exam or the IWA this year, I would encourage you to take them anyway. The reason I say this is because even if you're not intending to do any portion of the exam this year, you're still going to lose a year of candidacy if you have enrolled. So if you take the proctored exam this year, you'll know what to expect next year when you've fully studied for it and are prepared. So many times candidates, they worry so much because they don't know what to expect. This eliminates that fear. And who knows? I mean, you might even pass the exam. So this slide, it's essentially a flowchart of what I just talked about with Tim, Kim, and Jim for those visual learners like me. So I'm going to leave it up for just a minute and you can take a look and then I will move on. Again, enrollment, 3 years from the time you enroll. And enrollment means you have completed every part of the enrollment process including receiving recommendations and payment. Okay, so once you pass both parts of the CCAP process, you will earn your CCAP. So you'll receive your CCAP at NCAP's annual convention, where you'll receive your pin at the awards gala. So this is why it's important to build your support team, as I talked about earlier in the presentation, because you should know if you are able to attend the annual convention to receive your CCAP once you earn it. So once you do earn it, and annual convention is behind us and you've received your pin, you'll renew your certification every 4 years. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. We'll just touch briefly on it a little bit later. So here's a fun fact. If you earn your CCAP in 2026, you'll receive it in St. Louis. If you earn it in 2027, you will receive it in Philadelphia. And our tentative location for 2028 is Chicago, but again, tentative. So some people like to plan their CCAP around which city the gala or the annual convention will be. So just so you know. Okay, so we've covered a lot already, but I want to touch briefly on the opportunities that NCAP and others around the country provide to support you and your success in earning your certification. So as I said earlier, NCAP puts out a candidacy guide each year. It's posted on our website right now. So there's a page in that guide that lists all of the important dates, including all of the upcoming webinars for you to attend. So over the course of the next 7 months, NCAP will provide webinars for the following topics: how to enroll and what to expect as a CCAP candidate. We're doing that today. Welcome to the CCAP program. So once you're enrolled, I will do another presentation. I believe it's in January, just kind of reiterating what we're talking about here, answering more questions that candidates may have. And then, as I spoke earlier, I will do a deeper dive into the proctored exam and the independent writing assignment. So some of these are for potential CCAP candidates. Some of them are very specifically for those already enrolled. Next presentations, I'm available to present at any state conferences or meetings or associations to discuss CCAP. And if that's something you or your association might be interested in, please reach out to me. So as we said, also study guides will be created for both the proctored exam and the IWA. It will be posted on the website. We will email links to all candidates, but you want to make sure that you read them because they're a wealth of information. We're essentially saying, this is what you study for. These are the topics that are going to be on the exam. So it's just your role to then study. And then last, but what I think is the most important learning opportunity is the study group. I cannot say enough about finding a study group and then not just attending, but really being present during the study group. So NCAP will have a list of study groups that are happening around the nation on NCAP's website. So I encourage you to go check that out. And if your state association, one way that they can support you is to provide a study group. So I would also encourage you to reach out to your state association and ask them what they plan to do to help support the CCAP candidates in their state. So here's some other resources. Again, we already talked about the candidacy guide and the study guide. The CCAP webpage, I'm just putting it out here so you understand and know that there is a dedicated spot for all things CCAP. Next, we do have a list of the CCAP commissioners on our website as well. They oversee the CCAP program. One thing to note about the commissioners, they're always happy to talk about the program. And then, I just lost my train of thought. oh, I know what it was. So the CCAP commission, you can think of the CCAP commission like a board of directors. Every agency has a board. They oversee, they essentially oversee the program and the agency. That's what the commission does. They oversee the CCAP program. And then lastly, we have NCAP staff. Myself and Mitzi can be reached at ccap@communityactionpartnership.com at any point to discuss anything. We both have access to that email address. So feel free to drop us a line because we want to help support your CCAP candidacy. So next, I want to direct you to what I think is the most important page in the candidacy guide, and that is the page with the 2025-2026 program updates or program dates. So if you see something in yellow, it means it's a requirement of the program and the candidate. So it's something you must do. So here's a pro tip for you. If you plan to enroll as a candidate, I would encourage you to put all of these dates in your calendar. Again, the CCAP Commission will not give any exceptions for doing anything late, registering late for an exam, the IWA, or late submissions of the IWA. And I would also encourage you not to wait until the last minute to enroll. So if you see something in blue, that designates a webinar, and the rest of the dates are important, but you'll want to become familiar with this page in the candidacy guide. So we only have a couple minutes left. I think the most important thing to know with regards to renewing your CCAP, I'm just going to go very quickly in case we have questions, is that you do need to renew every 4 years. Just like you did with your enrollment, you will need to have a reference letter from your CEO. And if you are the CEO, it needs to come from your board chair. And then you're required to do 24 hours of continued learning around the body of knowledge. So if you attend conferences, webinars, etc., that can be included. And it's 24 hours total over those 4 years. So essentially you break it down, it's 6 hours a year, which most of you do anyway if you attend one convention each year. And then lastly, there's support for the community or the CCAP program. And those are things like volunteering to be a proctor, sitting at the CCAP table at annual convention, evaluating essays for the proctored exam, etc. I don't expect you to remember the renewal. We'll get to that once you've earned your CCAP. So again, I'm not going to go through this, but this is the process to become a CCAP and the process for renewal. And that is the end of the presentation, but I'm going to open it up in case any of you have questions. So we have a couple minutes left. Anything I didn't cover or you want more clarification on? Feel free to unmute. Michelle has a question about the body of knowledge. The date is unsure. We'll be meeting in September with the CCAP Commission, hopefully to get that approved. So it should be on our website and or sent out sometime in October. But I lied. By November 1st, it will be available. Any other questions folks have? I will stick around if you do have questions and you just don't want to ask them in front of the group. This recording will be emailed to you. Yes, Amanda, we will send that out. So For now, I want to say thank you so much for being here. Please know that if you have questions along the way, reach out to me or Mitzi at the email address on the screen. We're happy to answer any of your questions that you have and support your journey to becoming a CCAP. And with that, have a great day, everyone. I appreciate you all and hope to see some of you enrolling.